Hello, and welcome. I'm Dr. James. Imagine Dona Marilena, 78 years old, when everything happened. It was supposed to be just another ordinary morning. She woke up, went to the bathroom, and suddenly felt an unexpected wave of dizziness. Her heart was still beating strongly. It wasn't a heart attack, nor a stroke, but something was definitely wrong. Her circulation rapidly deteriorated within minutes. Surprisingly, the root of the problem wasn't a rare disease or something entirely new. It was linked to a habit that had been with her for over 5 decades, a practice she was always told was harmless, even natural, self-pleasure. But the truth was, the risk didn't come from the act itself. The issue was how she repeated the same motions, year after year, unaware that her body was changing. What seemed benign at 30 could become a significant burden at 70. For over 15 years, my medical practice has been dedicated to caring for mature women in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond, who navigate profound and often silent changes. We frequently discuss cholesterol, high blood pressure, and osteoporosis, but we rarely touch upon one crucial aspect: how circulation and intimacy transform with age. Yet, this is a topic that impacts not only physical health, but also sleep, self-esteem, and even relationships. It's not just my observations. Recent studies, published in journals like Maturitas, indicate that after menopause, blood vessels lose elasticity, and incorrect intimate stimulation practices can lead to micro-damage and reduced sensitivity. In other words, automatic habits can directly influence a woman's vitality. That's why today, I want to discuss a delicate but fundamental topic with you: the quiet mistakes many women make during moments of self-pleasure, which can harm their circulation, sensitivity, and even energy levels. I have had countless retired teachers, nurses, and even highly active grandmothers come to my office, unaware that small, repetitive movements, performed for years, were subtly eroding their intimacy and overall vitality. As the body ages, the hormones that once protected lubrication and facilitated arousal decline. Skin becomes thinner, and blood vessels grow less flexible. If ignored, what once brought ease can leave invisible traces, gradually stealing away pleasure and energy over time. In this video, I will reveal the 4 most common mistakes I see in my clinical practice, and crucially, how to correct them to restore circulation, sensitivity, and confidence. I encourage you to stay with me until the very end, because mistake number 4 is the most frequent among mature women, and correcting it can profoundly change how you feel about yourself. Before we dive in, I'd love to hear from you. Please share your age and the city you're watching from in the comments below. It helps me understand how far this message is reaching and connect with our community. Mistake number 1: the rush that causes circulatory shock. Many women tell me during their appointments, "Dr. James, sometimes I just want something quick, just to relax and fall asleep." This sentiment is entirely understandable. The problem, however, lies in the effect such haste has on a mature body. When stimulation occurs at an accelerated pace, the heart begins to race in mere seconds. The blood vessels in the intimate area first constrict sharply, and then, just as abruptly, expand. This sudden rise and fall creates immense stress on the capillaries, which become more fragile after menopause. While a 30-year-old body might handle such an impact well, by 60 or 70, vessels have lost elasticity, and estrogen levels, the hormone that once protected tissues and aided in their repair, are significantly diminished. The result can be micro-injuries, loss of sensitivity, and a gradual reduction in the body's response to pleasure. And science confirms this. A study published in the journal Climacteric showed that after the age of 60, declining hormone levels combined with sudden peaks in heart rate can impair microcirculation in the genital system, increasing the risk of discomfort and reduced sensitivity over time. This doesn't mean pleasure itself is dangerous. It simply means that the form of achieving it must evolve with age. Quick, hasty pleasure might offer instant relief, but in the medium term, it wears out blood vessels, diminishes sensitivity, and even undermines self-confidence. Remember, intimacy isn't just about reaching a peak. It's about breadth, circulation, and presence. When you turn this moment into a race, your body perceives it as stress, not care, and the consequences are far broader than they might seem. Women who perpetuate this habit for years often report loss of energy, poor sleep, and even difficulties in maintaining confidence in their intimate lives. This is why I tell my patients, haste is the enemy of vitality. But even those who learn to slow down often make a second, quiet, unconscious mistake that can completely block blood flow. Mistake number 2, holding your breath and excessive body tension. There's an almost imperceptible detail I observe in many mature women. During self-stimulation, their entire body tenses up, shoulders rise, the abdomen becomes rigid, and without realizing it, they hold their breath. This might seem harmless, but such a pattern creates a direct blockage in circulation. When breathing becomes shallow and the pelvic floor contracts excessively, the body enters a state of alarm, almost like stress. Blood vessels constrict, and instead of oxygen-rich blood reaching the clitoris and vagina, the flow is restricted. Why is this so crucial? Because the clitoris is one of the most blood flow-dependent organs in the entire body. It is enhanced circulation that activates nerves and provides sensitivity. When breathing is blocked, the signal sent to the nervous system is the opposite: stress instead of pleasure. Over time, this unconscious habit can reduce sensitivity, hinder natural lubrication, and even change how the body responds to touch. Many women say they don't feel like they used to, attributing it to inevitable aging, when in reality, it's a consequence of a physical pattern that can be changed. Scientific data confirms this effect. Studies published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine show that deep breathing and muscle relaxation significantly increase blood flow to the female genital system in postmenopausal women, improving sexual response and reducing pain. In other words, breathing correctly is just as vital as hormones once were. That's why I teach my patients a simple exercise. During an intimate moment, drop your shoulders, relax your abdomen, and take a deep breath, imagining the air helping blood circulate better. It seems like a minor detail, but it's precisely what helps the body shift from tension mode into pleasure mode. And even when breathing improves, there remains another very common mistake, perhaps the most frequent among women who live alone or face loneliness. Mistake number 3, daily repetition without recovery time. Many mature women, especially after retirement or living alone, eventually turn self-stimulation into a daily ritual. For some, it's a way to alleviate loneliness. For others, a means to cope with stress or an attempt to fall asleep. Indeed, when they were younger, this habit might even have been energizing. But with age, the body no longer responds in the same way. Just like with physical exercise, in maturity, tissues and blood vessels require more time for recovery. What once was a stimulus can now turn into depletion. It's not uncommon for women who maintain such a daily rhythm to start noticing subtle changes: decreased sensitivity, a feeling of numbness, irritation of intimate skin, or even emotional emptiness after the act. Instead of relief, fatigue sets in. This isn't because the body is failing, but because it's being asked to do more than it can recover from. The nervous system, blood vessels, and even hormonal balance all need pauses to readjust, and science confirms this phenomenon. Research published in the journal Menopause Review indicates that a high frequency of stimulation without rest periods is linked to a weaker vascular response in the sexual system and a greater sense of sexual fatigue in women over 60. In other words, just as muscles need recovery days, the intimate sphere also requires pauses to restore balance. What I recommend to my patients is simply to alternate days, vary stimuli, and most importantly, allow desire to build up again. Such a pause shouldn't be seen as deprivation, but as an invitation for the body to recover, for nerves to reactivate, and for pleasure to return with greater intensity. Because pleasure isn't solely dependent on frequency, it depends on quality, energy, and how well you care for yourself. Even when taking these pauses, many still make a fourth and final mistake, one that doesn't start in the body, but in the brain. Mistake number 4, dependence on intense fantasies and detachment from reality. This might be the quietest yet most destructive error. Many mature women confess to me that to become aroused they increasingly resort to very vivid fantasies, erotically charged novels, or even explicit content. At first, this seems harmless, but over time, the brain begins to adapt only to this type of stimulus. The problem is that the brain is the primary organ of pleasure. When it's trained to constantly seek excessive intensity, the body's natural response begins to falter. A light touch no longer elicits a response. Real intimacy seems dull. And this isn't because a woman is aging. It's because her brain has been trained to expect a level of arousal that her body can no longer cope with. This mechanism is explained by science. Studies published in the journal Archives of Sexual Behavior show that repeated exposure to high-intensity erotic stimuli alters the sensitivity of dopamine receptors in the brain, reducing the response to real physical contact. In older women, where hormonal levels are already diminished and blood vessels are more fragile, this effect can be even more detrimental, leading to a loss of lubrication, difficulties with arousal, and a feeling of detachment. I've seen patients come into my office in tears, saying, "Dr. James, I no longer feel anything with my partner. It's as if my body has shut down." But the truth is, the body hasn't shut down. It has simply been conditioned, and it can be retrained. The path to restoring sensitivity isn't about giving up pleasure, but changing how you seek it. This means taking a break from intense stimuli and reconnecting with more subtle signals. A light touch, a pleasant memory, even an aroma or music that awakens tenderness. Over time, the brain begins to respond again to these natural forms of arousal, and circulation in the intimate area improves. And here's the good news. This process is reversible. The body can relearn, the brain can be reprogrammed, and vitality can be restored. But to achieve this, you need to make room for the real and reduce dependence on the artificial. These 4 mistakes, rushing, holding your breath, repeating without rest, and dependence on intense fantasies, can, over the years, erode intimate vitality and subtly undermine circulation. However, all of them can be corrected. If you've reached this point, it means you've already understood something important. The body matures, but never stops responding. The brain can be retrained, circulation can be restored, and pleasure can once again become a source of energy, confidence, and well-being if you choose to care for yourself with awareness, patience, and presence. I've witnessed women in their 70s, 80s, and even older who restored sensitivity, regained confidence, and rediscovered intimacy as a source of joy. This wasn't due to a magic pill, but because they chose to transform how they relate to themselves. My invitation to you is direct. Please don't keep this knowledge to yourself. This topic is often surrounded by silence, but it holds the power to transform lives. Share this video with other women your age, with your friends, neighbors, or relatives. You can become a bridge, helping them reclaim their intimate health and the energy to live fully. Before you leave, please share your age and the city you're watching from in the comments below. It's incredibly important for me to understand how far this message reaches and to connect with each story that resonates with mine. Remember, you are not alone. You possess the power to transform your intimacy into a profound source of vital energy. And above all, you deserve to experience pleasure, confidence, and well-being at every stage of your life.